Renee was going to come with Blue Cross Blue Shield, but we'll, for sake of the representative, no, she knows where it's at. Okay, so Renee. So nobody's on the phone yet, but that meeting's still going over. I imagine that when it's over, people will drop and join online. Okay?
Yeah,
Again,
3 hour.
yeah, it's still going. I mean, I don't know how much longer it'll go. But the good part in you holding the bill yesterday gave me time. I feel a lot more comfortable in representing the industry. So I just want to give you an overview and weigh in. Maybe any time on any of these issues. I just want to give you an overview of kind of what we're dealing with, okay? So we represent domestic carriers, from the very large, who's the largest insurance company, to some of the very small, like Western Mutual Insurance. The smaller companies that we represent are struggling in this marketplace. This is by far, in my judgment, having talked to my counterparts all across this nation, the most competitive marketplace. It's why we have the lowest healthcare premiums. We have 50% of the marketplace is dominated by one major carrier that competes in two arenas, the hospital arena and the healthcare arena. For the last 2 years, that major carrier in the health insurance aspect has lost literally millions of dollars and had it infused from the hospital side. Those are the facts. The challenge is the people I represent can't do that. If they don't properly price their premiums, they go out of business, especially these smaller companies. And so when unfunded mandates come up, antennas are up because they're trying to compete in the marketplace. Okay.
I totally agree. So I don't know how, well, you probably haven't had a chance to read.
I have. And it's a much better piece of legislation, but there's still some changes that we'd like you to look at and consider. The one thing I want to say is just for total transparency, if we can come to some agreement today, we may not, we will not oppose the legislation. But we're never going to representatives stand up and say, we support this legislation, because when we do that, everything other,
So let me do something that is really, my own boss or HR, I'm straight saying that the complexity, why we find this, I was glad I gave Daniel longer going to research it. So, at the end of the bill now, it says, insurer may satisfy the requirements of subsection 2A. If the insurer provides coverage for in-person behavioral treatment, okay, here it is, line 81, listen to this close case. A health benefit plan that offers coverage for mental health services shall provide coverage for telepsychiatric consultation, provide coverage for telepsychiatric consultation as a network provider, if a telepsychiatric consultation is made available to the physician within 7 business days, after the initial request is made by the physician to the in-network provider, and separately identified under services described in subsection 2A at commercially acceptable rate. So that on the surface that sounds okay, but the key with that is that the health benefit plan that offers coverage for mental health services. Okay, so we're not only a grandfather, we're not only any plan that does not offer mental health services. Okay. And we're not excluding, or we're just saying, this only applies if you're operating. So we're simply saying, this is now a different way, a modern, technology way that helps a psychiatrist produce more outputs from a patient coverage perspective, only if your plan already offers mental health.
Okay, that carve out is great. So let me just tell you another thing that I just want to say up front, so we get this. When this legislation passes, you're going to only impact a third of the marketplace, and those are primarily going to be small businesses, because the way the law is written, in the federal law is written, the legislature only has jurisdiction over fully insured plans in the state of Utah. 2/3 of the plans in the state of Utah are self-insured. So all your federal government plans are self-insured, okay? All your big businesses, large businesses, what I used to recall, Kennecott Copper, which is now, Rio Tinto, all self-insured. So part of what you need to know is when this bill passes, and we say this on all mandated bills, people are going to show up at your doorstep and say, my damn insurance company refused to pay for this. They don't know. The public doesn't know the difference, because when you work for Rio Tinto, you get a card, and that card is going to say Blue Cross Blue Shield or Intermountain Healthcare or whatever. But the contractual arrangement is simply this. In those large self-insured companies, we come in and administer. We're just administrators. They pay all the bills. And the federal government has said, in that scenario, you cannot mandate anything to them. Okay. So you need to know the narrowness of the scope that you're doing.
It's still pulled in PHP, huge.
Right.
Medicaid, huge.
Right.
Select Health.
No, not on their fully insured plans. Okay. You have no, not on their self-insured plans, because, which is the bulk of their business.
Is it really?
Yes. What people don't understand is right now, almost any company, because of the rising healthcare costs, you can validate this from a standpoint, any company over 100 with Representative Dunnington's legislation that made it easier to self-insure, self-insures if they can. Now, we're not out there saying self-insure, because, of course, our business model, we'd like to make a little more money than you can't just administering, because they'll only pay us 1%, 2%, 3%. But those small businesses are saying, we're seeing these double-digit inflationary costs, we're not willing to do it. So I don't want to leave you the impression that this legislation is going to fly across.
So I got one help for a long time earlier, take a
minute. Right.
And interestingly, because we already have 4 codes out there in that category, nobody has ever used it.
Right.
And because the reality is that everybody uses these, we would have enough providers to do it. So he admitted, in no way, shape, or form do I believe that the passage of the bill is going to also ramp up the demand for these services.
Yeah.
Is evidenced by fiscal notes for how many Medicaid patients would use it, and evidenced by the fact that PHP, that is very well in this program and likes it, even zero fiscal knowledge. Now, as he said, part of that was not because they don't believe we use it, they believe it also saves them costs, because again, the plan that already offers it, the question is, do you want to pay for an in-person visit that's going to be more expensive with a specialist, or a telephone consult using a primary care physician, which is going to be less expensive? Is the question of how do you want to cover it? So the point you make, Kelly, I appreciate it.
So I just know
that.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of legislators don't, and in fact, my great example of this is a few years back. I'm going back now, 10 years back. I had a Deseret News woman come to me, and she said to me, this bill on the fact that you have to pay for contraceptives has got to pass the Utah State Legislature, because I work for an employer that doesn't pay for it. And I said to her, and when this bill passes, they still won't pay for it. DMVA does not pay for contraceptives to this very day, but they're self-insured. And so any self-insured company is outside that network, which is, again, these aren't my numbers. You can check with the insurance commissioner. 2/3 of the state of Utah is self-insured. And so there's no way you can pierce that. You can go back to your own staff and ask that question. Here's the issues that have come up that we'd like to discuss with you. Yeah, give you these. And these apply to the old number of deals, and some of which you've already taken care of. So let's just go through one of the things that we like. That most of our concerns are not driving costs, trying to keep costs competitive, and also recognizing that we want to set a standard that if others come behind you, as they will, use this bill as a model and say, well, yeah, suicide is a real problem. Now we have this problem that's equally is big, and we want it addressed.
Yeah. So AHIS, has like a similar perspective, but slightly different.
Who?
AHIS, America's Health Insurance Plan. So we're mostly just monitoring the bill, providing. The PCP calls a cardiologist because they have patients with high blood pressure, so they don't get paid. The cardiologist doesn't reimburse for that. They're not necessarily, against this, but they also want to make sure the scope is narrow enough that you don't have every specialist coming in and saying, hey, I can focus with PCP.
And I will say this, Rich, I work in healthcare.
Right.
The only specialist that even comes close to my experience to the shortest of psychiatry is rheumatology. And people don't die from rheumatology. Right.
See, the other thing that AHIP brought to our attention is, will cardiologists now say, look, when you see a patient that you think has a heart problem, we need to consult with you right on the spot. You need to do a referral. Now, will that happen? I'm not here to tell you it will, but there's a potential for that. That's what happens. So we see that happen in any piece of legislation that passes. So, for instance, autism is passed. Now we have the rheumatologists coming to us and saying, we need similar legislation. This is a serious problem. So we see a decree that takes place. So the first thing is what we mentioned the other day when we spoke to the committee, and that's we want the patient to know that there's going to be a cost to consulting and that they're going to be responsible for that cost.
Especially if it's out of network. We just don't want them to get a price. The patient gets a price bill, they call the insurance company, and that's why I get the bill. So we would like to see a disclosure so the patient knows, hey, this may be an in-network provider for you, maybe an out-of-network provider for you.
I'm open to including language that the patient shall be advised that this may result, because like they just pay for it.
Right.
May result in additional charges, but I can tell you from a health system perspective, assigned authorization at an unbelievable level of complexity, because is that a paper form that I have an extra file? I want to keep that. Do I send it to the Department of Insurance? Or do I reprogram my electronic medical record system for an electronic signature for what end? I mean, if at the end of the day, legislation says a patient shall be advised before they engage in this, then I think that meets the spirit of what you're trying to do, because you simply want awareness that this may be an additional charge.
Yeah.
Even though we don't require that for radiology, which or anesthesiology or any other areas, I'm open to putting language in to make sure that there's no surprises here.
Okay. And the other thing that's in here down lower is lines 88 and 89. The line says a provider who receives reimbursement under this section shall accept the cost of out-of-network reimbursement rate as paid in full and agrees not to balance bill. What we're saying is that what you've asked us to do is cover something that we haven't covered in the past.
But keep in mind, this revised bill says this is only for mental health services.
Right.
So we're only now talking, we're not talking about a new service, we're only talking about a new delivery method.
Right, yeah, new delivery method. So with this language, what we're trying to do is protect our member, your constituent, by saying no surprise billings.
Now, do we have anywhere in code where they can't balance bill?
No,
No.
no. I mean, I'm going to be real honest with you. This is controversial, but what upsets us is what took place yesterday. When the UMA goes to the table and says, "Oh, you should just cover this," we're 100% supportive. Oh, by the way, we don't put any skin in this case. Those guys over there and doggone well put skin in.
They're really upset
Yeah.
about policy, so
Right.
there's a mandate on them.
Right.
Which one's off? Which one's off? Oh, those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's our concern. I mean, it's easy for them to show up and say,
I think that's a good,
no, your constituents, I totally get that. I totally get those people when they come up. I totally get the pain they're going through. But what bothers us is them showing up and saying, we're not going to put any skin in the game. Last year when we dealt with surprise billing, only in emergent care, you can talk to your own colleagues.
Where you were on that?
Our issue on that was we wanted it solved.
Did you like that itself?
Loved it.
Yeah. And I got an amendment to that bill that it took the ambulance industry about a month to figure out what was even in there.
I heard it.
It also said that one Airline Regulation Act is just in Congress for ambulances. It'll be subject to provisions of this section. That basically said balance billing in the air ambulance industry, which could be huge. I will submit 1 or 2 outrageous charges to the for-profit air ambulances would cover the entire cost of my program for an entire year.
Yeah.
I thought it was actually like $40 grand.
I remember that amendment. I heard it, so I remember.
Okay, so what I don't want to do is open a can of worms with balance bill language on something that's costing $150.
Yeah.
But I'm fine with putting language in that the patient shall be made aware of it. Now, let me read. We're still at the typically identifying rigorous service credit section at the rate. Is this already language at the rate you should reimburse that?
Yeah.
Now, keep in mind, I have in there a conservative word commercially reasonable. So I can't come in and say, no, this is $1,000, just like your ambulance.
Yeah.
They bill whatever they want.
My client had a little bit of a concern with commercially reasonable. She understood the intent of it, but typically use like usual, customary, or that's more definable.
Will you go back to your staff and ask the language there, because
We just wanted to find.
I saw you. That's right.
Okay.
Because I agree. That I think the language is.
We don't want it to be ambiguous.
Yeah, that's fine. I just don't want somebody coming in with an outrageous charge, and I can point to the only group offering it, and then charge them $150.
Okay, so let's. I think the second line, in line 45, the second paragraph, you can eliminate that. I had that brought up by 1 or 2 people. I prepared this morning, and they said no.
Yeah, because I thought we were taking that out.
We're taking that out. So that's there, and then.
Okay, so let's go 1-1. I'm going to adjust this to say
It's not a signed authorization, but advised. Right, okay. Okay, and
which I think typically is okay. I have this other option available for you, which is, this is not normal for me to now say, I want you to go down the hall into this room and fill out this online questionnaire. And that's a good point for them to say, if you want this service, it's available. Here, I have, we're not going to get an answer today. It'll be tomorrow or whatever. And it could, could be an extra service. But at that juncture, most people are like, I don't care. I need help.
Okay, so line 86 deals with the 7 business days. The bigger carriers are saying we have the network. We might be able to do that, but the smaller carriers are saying, look, we don't have that many psychiatrists on, and And that's going to be expensive for us. And then we're competing against the bigger carriers. Western Mutual, Educators Mutual, Molina, those are carriers that aren't, you know, they don't dominate. There's two carriers. This is what people don't really recognize when they're looking at the competitive marketplace in the state of Utah. 50% Intermountain Healthcare, about 28% Blue Cross Blue Shield. Then you have the rest of these domestic carriers in Utah that are just doing it. I call them niche. What they do is they find a niche, like Western Mutual deals with the throwing condition. They find a niche and they say, you know, Intermountain Blue Cross will not design a policy for you. We will come out and design a policy specifically to meet your needs. That's how they stay in the marketplace. And so what they're concerned about, if you say 7 days, advantage large carriers. And their costs go up and they can't compete. So they're saying 10 business, they said 14 days. I said, look, he's already moved from that 6 weeks. Yeah. They've already went.
That's the main factor here where I pulled the thought.
I was sitting right next to you when you said that. And I was sitting up to the side of you. So, I mean, they'd like 14 days, but I told them he's already moved the deal from 5 days to 7 days. I don't know if we can get it to 14 days, but we might be able to get it to 10 working days. Do you have anything you want to say about that? I know a lot of you are.
For our members.
So then, so then let me.
Now wait, you want to go to line 77?
Yeah, line 77, excuse me.
The second line, the second paragraph, and then should be made able to strike that one too.
Yeah, that's yeah. Right. Yeah, they're the same language. That's the same language.
So then the written emphasis is going to strike on that.
Right.
So wait, is 45 to 37%?
Well, they're the start. Yeah, they're almost written in the in the first substitute. They were and then I just added the back end of it. Right. The cost. Just be advised of it, because I think one's an explanation, and then the other one's the actual in the bill. And then the balance bill issue. You said no to.
That was one of the.
That's line 88 and 89.
That one. All of a sudden, I bring those.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the thing.
This is if I put in the usual or customary, I can't imagine they're going to go chasing $20 for something that's not reimbursable. When I say usual customary, I don't know where balance billing comes in.
Yeah.
Well,
no, but they're still balanced billing, because what they do is they'll take what a provider does, they'll take the usual and customary, and then they'll say, patient, you have the rest of the bill, here it is. And as you heard last year, as Representative Dunnigan can tell you, last year, I mean, they had people, the usual and customary rate, in other words, what we pay, the average cost, we'll pay like $900. And some of those families were getting billed $2,000 and $3,000 on top of the usual customary.
My client hasn't mentioned balance billing. I don't, that issue.
Yeah. If we're dealing with a high price service, I would be more concerned about that, because trust me, this whole random stuff that came out last session, I may have been just
Okay, deniability. Good, Representative. Okay, now these additional amendments, one of the things we just want to state that we have a clinical review process across the board for all medical costs.
Okay. So right now in legislation, though, for everything that you can review, if you decide that the physician orders it was not medically necessary, I'm not exempting. I'm not saying no. You can't have this problem.
Right. Okay. So
in some way, I would submit putting this in here maybe an article, because we're saying, wait, unless we said that you can, have the authority to appeal this, then everything else apparently no, you can't.
We just put that down so that we came to that understanding that we just did. As long as you understand that any medical claim that we get, this is across the board, that we have clinical reviews, and then if we deny that to the provider has the appeals process as well as the.
Don't want to change
Okay,
that.
okay.
And I really don't need positions to do this.
Okay, then this goes, if the legislation shall be unenforceable, this is a grandfather clause. So it won't expand it, it's not needed, you've addressed that for us. Then one of the things that some of the carriers are saying, especially my smaller carriers are saying, we haven't geared up for this. There's certain companies that have this, a limited number of companies that have this. Primarily, the leader in the marketplace is University of Utah, as you well know. Most people refer to them as a sole provider of these type of services. What they would like is a delayed effective date so that they could go out and develop the same kind of program. That's what they would like. And so they suggested an effective date of 2020. They would like, again, to hold down their costs when they can go out and negotiate and bring people into this. And it might be that they negotiate with the University of Utah to provide it as count. That's what we do. Then their costs are kept. That's what we do. Their costs are.
They want this to be a 3-year pilot program.
Yeah, they would like the program to be, well, just sunset. Not even
2020 and a repeal of
right.
12/31/22.
That's
why would they want it repealed on January 1st instead of 12/31?
Well, because the 31st is the plan year.
I know that's what I said. 12/31.
Right.
So,
but we're open to those. We're open to those discussions. But again,
I don't have to be here this long after we know it.
Yeah. But don't you think there's somebody here that will renew it? Especially if it's a good program. I mean, sunsets since I've been in the process, which is since 1975, you see very few bills that the sunset.
So this is what I would say is I would be more sensitive to this if I had just made the amendment saying if your plan has to have a behavioral health benefits. And because this is now we're not saying you have to offer a new look. This is that was everyone left thinking, you know what? It's an ugly process here. Yesterday was a hard day, but I thought to myself, the system works, and like the thought of grandfathering these other plans and triggering parity at the federal level had never crossed my mind. And I wasn't aware of all these grandfathering plans, even though there's apparently that number. So with this change to say, no, your plan has to have behavioral health benefits. So
major improvement in the piece of legislation. No argument from either one of us on that, right?
So I would submit on the effective now. What is the effective date now?
The effective date is
July 1st.
Yeah, July 1st.
When do you plan? Don't plan years typically go from July 1st to June 30th?
No, they go from January 1st. They fit fiscal. Most of them are fiscal. They're selling usually most of them. I think most of them are selling during this in September, October. Yeah, but not all plans.
Like with the ADP, if they get July 1st start.
Right, because you own it.
Yeah.
So you start your fiscal.
January 1st.
Yeah.
So I guess no matter when I started, it's going to be in the middle of some plan year.
Right. But at least it allows enough time. All we're asking for is enough time. Even if we could get a 1-year delayed implementation date, that would help. That would help.
So I'm going to say January 1st, 2019, because they can't figure out a program in 10 months, 9 months, but the sunset date, I'm not. That's when I'm not negotiable on, because this was some major healthcare overhaul. But again, with this amendment, no, you already have the behavioral health benefit. So we want to take away a modern service delivery technique. Because, and again, this is a class, And then again, the other language that I didn't read you as a new thing saying wait, if you can't get them into an in-person appointment within a week, then this kicks in. And so that's yet another option for them. And so I think it's
Really appreciate you working on that.
I do have one other question though. So if we don't want to touch the balance load issue, which I understand is a huge kind of harm, if they do refer to an out-of-network provider, would you say that the out-of-network provider should accept the in-network rate or 125% of Medicaid, something like that, so there are some cost constraints so that the patient.
So do you not think if I change this language to usual and customary, that protects us?
Well, it doesn't protect.
I was just thinking of something that's a little less ambiguous, because you know, and I, thinking about that, because this, I think maybe in network.
At 125%, I mean, if that was the limit, they'd be hard pressed to balance still the rest.
125% of
Medicaid.
Medicare.
So
Or the-
Medicare.
Medicare.
Medicare, not Medicare. I just made.
Right, Medicare, or the in-network provider rate. Think about it.
Okay, let me ask you, do we have anything for document coverage? Part of my
I don't know that.
Part of my challenge with this is, again, the complexity, like the simplicity,
Right.
and then I go back to my day job and go to the revenue cycle people who, how they survive in that world, I have no idea. That means system programming changes,
No, I
and the
understand.
complexity for something that, no, here in fairness. So we used to do this for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how many of these consults they got last year? This is public record. If you want to be an auditor and verify, make sure you give you the link to the website where you put it out there. 150. They have 13 community clinics. That's not quite one. Maybe every 2 to 3 days there's one. Yeah.
So how are they funded currently?
So you just we believe this program is effective. So that, but interestingly, they had a few more years before from us, and I looked at them like, it's essentially a program that's dropping.
Right.
They had embedded healthcare studies throughout their community clinic for mental health integration. Yeah. There's some of the people who select health. They're like, as we progress in our knowledge of healthcare and how to reduce costs, we are coming ever more to the conclusion that effective behavioral health pays off diabetes, and goes down the list of all the other causes that poor behavioral health can cause. Yeah. Heart disease, and there's ACEs studies. They know by zip code what your average ACE score is, and studies have shown ACE scores drive heavily correlate with 8 of the 10 top causes of mortality. Number one, suicide, 11.25, greater likelihood for death by suicide and get 3 to 5 ACE scores. And so they're just like, no, look, and they start telling us what they're starting to do on behavioral health, and I was extremely, this was their medical director, sometimes who's a psychiatrist. I was extremely impressed with how they're moving the data. So part of me said, this is a bill before its time, because you just said, no, they pay for 100%. Then they said, wait, not only is this idea, we're going to embed LCSWs. If they don't charge the patient for, then the doctor would set it as a behavioral health concern, you're not for your week today, and they have to go visit with a social worker down the hall, and they're going to see how we can help you further. And they had last year 9,000 visits. Wow. LCSWs, they pay for it out of pocket, not going insurance, because they believe the ROI is there and it's the best patient care available.
Yeah. We are so blessed in this state to have good physicians, good providers, good healthcare institutions. The challenge we have anytime this type of legislation passes is we have an insurance department, a whole property department. I can guarantee you somebody will see this as an opportunity. I'm talking about the bad actors will see this as an opportunity and try to abuse it. Now, that's why we have a fraud investigative team, and we monitor that, and we watch that when we see inordinate amounts of services being requested from one provider. We turn those over to fraud, and the fraud division goes in and take a look.
This one's pretty easy to audit because there's a questionnaire the patient has to fill out, and the doctor has to have it in their clinical notes.
Yeah. And so we
If I was going to do fraud, I would be doing some ceremonies of all these. I got so many needs trying to make me money that I would jump out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, the other issue that my client wanted to share is that another provider came into the market for a similar model. Would they be allowed, to contract with whatever provider they chose?
Give me an example.
Like right now, the only provider that does this is state, right? But in the private marketplace, you're hoping that it will be innovative and they can contract with.
In complete fairness, the bill makes no mention of the University of Utah, makes no mention of the GATE program. They just repeat it's a great program, and I went to visit with them, and I'm like, it's kind of a sleeping giant. It's been working. I mean, albeit it's not scaled to the level that even they could do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
If the demand is there, hopefully other.
And there's nothing in here that would prohibit that. I don't welcome that. I mean, I would love to be telepsychiatric consultant that's also got an office of 10 doctors, and that's all they do. I mean, what do you think? They hired 12 psychiatrists this year, and they could hire 80.
Yeah, it was like 20 in the garden or something.
Yeah, it was just like we're not going to get them. So there's I don't think there's easy to prohibit this. If there's language that they this, I'm happy to put that in, but I wrote this. I mean, look, I'm sensitive. I work at the U. Like, I'm not trying to start business there, and they're so sold out. I know they can even tell me that we would offer this. This is only available to their internal physicians currently. Now, obviously, they contract with region.
Mm-hmm.
Well, are they in select health other than like coordinator or super specialty? Yeah. But either towards like health, telehealth center, is unbelievable. They have telecritical medicine. So for all of their rural hospitals that have ICUs, docs sitting in lab coats in their office with like 90 screens in front of them, no patients in the building, are monitoring all these patients.
No kidding. We don't argue that we think that telemedicine has the potential, as I've spoken to Representative Ivory on this. I mean, it's such an emerging field, and we see major potentials. Yeah. I mean, a few years ago, I went to Ken, because we're good friends in my Rotary Club, and I said to him, look, don't put limits on what, don't set a floor or ceiling on this, because it's evolving, and we don't know the potential. Yeah. He's been great to work with.
The one thing I would say is fair, and you can say to your client, is this service, come in, this is officer, in the alley. Very sorry there. How you doing? Sorry, I was
You just got out, huh?
Well, in fairness, this service is very akin to radiology. Last night I was thinking, I'm just going to make this a test, a billable test, because that's why a radiologist will go for the services, because it's a test. Mm-hmm. And questionnaires are tests. Except for, I mean, it's still a radiologist will say, oh, sorry, I can't see the film, there's some consultation. But nobody freaks out about rogue radiologists, like, you're making stuff up, doing this erroneously, and I'm sure this is that. But, yeah. So, I sent this to Doug just a little while ago, but we sent something to Doug this morning. I did, but I just sent him the latest and greatest that I emailed and texted to him. Hold on, they just tell me, I'm sure you remember the rest of this there, like text sheet, right? What do you want to text or email? Actually, let me text it to you. You can always email it to yourself. That way I make sure I have your number.
801?
Yeah, hold on.
558 3826.
Come in there.
Yeah.
Oh,
So the big change that this draft has in it is it limits the requirement only to health insurers that have mental health services.
Yep.
Let me read this to you.
Oh, really?
Let them read it.
Okay. So this is
That's a big deal.
a big deal. So, a health benefit plan that offers coverage for mental health services shall provide coverage for psychiatric consultation, blah, blah, blah. So basically, this only applies if you already offer mental health benefits. So every grandfather, grandmother, step-brother-in-law plan is excluded.
Remember a good argument we had. You're taking that away.
I thought you heard it.
That's good. I'm very good.
I put the 7 days in there, and your plan on 6 weeks.
We've asked them to consider 10 working days.
I've already got it. I should have put in 2,
Which is,
so then I could say, I'll give you 5.
but
Then everybody should
remember who you're doing this for. You're not doing this for the big guys. You're doing this for the little guys.
So, what about some of the concerns we have of being able to, if they didn't meet our criteria,
He's already stipulated that there's nothing in the legislation that precludes us to use our normal clinical review process.
And frankly, if I put that in there, that would set a precedent that if you put that in there, you can't do it. And all of a sudden you put 99.99999% of the rest of your business at risk. That would set a precedent that if we don't say you can do this, you can't do it. Now it's just like.
So this got to be offered. We have plenty of pieces of legislation that says we have to offer something that we still do clinical reviews on. Now, let me just walk through what I think we talked about and where we have consensus. So where on lines 40, the old lines 45 and 77, after we say a written evidence-based patient questionnaire, you're going to advise the patient rather than sign, saying that.
Well, coming from that working healthcare institution, in my opioid bill, one of my opioid bills in this session, I was going to say the doctor has to document that they consulted with the patient about risk of opioids. Well, talking to Ed Red and Ray Warren, who I call good players in healthcare business, they're like, okay, you know what that means? Reprogramming an EMR system and pay for it to track because we documented it. All of a sudden, like, are you now, where the systems are all gone paperless, that means reprogramming EMR. If you have any interest in EMR frameworks, Intermountain Mill transitioning has been a disaster. I know doctors, they don't even know if patients are going to see tomorrow in and out because their system is such a mess.
As long as you're advising the patient, there's a cost associated with it. And I've got one of our companies are saying they'd like to have the usual and customary rate
Commercially.
talked about, whatever that is, a range so that they know. So the first thing you're going to do when you go to your doctor and the doctor says, okay, I'm advising you that I may consult a psychiatrist on this, and I'm advising you may have to pay for that. They're going to ask, what is that amount? I don't know what that amount is, we're gathering it up because it varies. Every company would vary, but just so they've got a ballpark. So that would be nice if we could put some kind of ballpark, because it'll give that usual and customary ballpark figure. I don't know if that should go in the statute as far as what that amount is, because that's going to change
that because I'm like, oh, it's $50 then. Like the problem.
Yeah, it changes.
It changes.
Yeah, and maybe low if more competition comes to the market.
Anywhere else in the close, so maybe was wondering, could you say 125% Medicare, or could you say that they'll accept, it is an out-of-network provider who may accept an in-network rate?
if it's out of network,
So they can't just bill whatever they want to the patient.
right.
that they'll accept our in-network rates. If they have to be referred out first, if we have for providers.
But this is about billing issue, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
without saying that.
Which,
So I don't know what your take on that would be.
Well, if they accepted the rate, it would be about zero.
Right.
They'll take the rate.
I mean, Representative, you've got to decide this. I would take that approach, push back on UMA a little bit, and it could be a throwaway if you had to throw it away. But the thing you're protecting is your consumers. That's what you're protecting. With the kind of language that's being suggested, it's your consumers who are going to benefit from that. Because
my only fear is complicating this.
and so
Now, the providers and the insurers are like, I need to program my system, but in every other situation except for this code, I now have to do it this way. And I thought it was, I could get it real aerodynamic fluid.
Right.
40 grams for transport. Yeah. Okay, just different story. But again, when you offered 150 last year, and they're like, we paid for it. There should be no reservation to use the service because we're paying for it. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so you're going to talk.
Because there is, I think it's going to cause more trouble than it's worth it. I mean, I'm changing usual customary.
Okay, thank you.
No, that's.
Okay, so you're going to they're going to advise. We've kind of agreed on that. We'd sure like to look for, especially for my smaller guys, to 7 business days, 10 business days. And you're going to look at that.
Right, you make that a question mark right.
Yeah, okay. And then no to the balance bill as we talked about. The clinical review, you said the bill doesn't touch that. We're able to use whatever internal processes we have.
Yeah.
And
Again, nothing prohibits that. There should be no different than you know.
And then as far as making this unenforceable, if it affects grandfather clauses, you've solved that problem.
We have solved that.
The effective date, you're willing to move it to January 1st of 2019.
I know that.
Okay, but no sunset.
I know that.
Okay, so let me just say this. So from your highest standard, from your highest standpoint, all I can say is if you can see your way clear to do those things that we talked about, we will not actively oppose this. But as I stated right at the outset, that we're never going to stand up and say,
I'm not asking for
and that's
your
not
endorsement. I just like to, you know, this is what I would like to say, like, this is what I'd really like to say. And again, the substitute not
right.
Is I'd like to sit in the committee and say, if there's anybody who's opposed to this bill, please come forward. Okay. If there's, I'm not going to say you should endorse it.
Okay,
but
the other thing I can't, as a representative of Ohio, but I can't say, we're a trade association. I have reached out to all our member companies and asked for their input. I've represented their input today. But those companies are autonomous, and they're going to take whatever decisions that they want to take, regardless of whether we take this. I cannot bind every one of my carriers and say, we've cut a deal. What I told them is that we're coming in good faith, and this is what we're going to demonstrate in the past. We've come into good faith. We tried to work these things out. But I cannot promise, and I just want to make it clear to you. No, I'm not going to take any. We publish a tracking list. We publish that every night. That includes the hearings. But that's our notification to them. These are the hearings that are being held. You saw the other day. I mean, where insurance companies do not. You saw the other day when you asked for who wants to do this. It's kind of like, let Mikey do it. Because this is an area, as you heard from the medical advisor from Regent's medical director, as you heard from the director, this isn't an area we want to stand up and say, hey, we could care less what suicide in the state.
And you know what's ironic is that Regents has been benefiting for 5 years because we use it paid for their members their patients out of pocket when they receive the services. You can like, this is the best interest of the patient, and we don't care about the cost.
I'm sure Frank's response to that is, "Can you do it for another 5 years?"
For 150 patients for the last year. That's one real service.
So, Mr. Representative, allow me to visit with Steve. I'll give you some more information.
Okay, sorry, this is Steve.
Please, either director.
Yeah.
Celebration support.
Sure.
And so he was effectively provided the lobby.
Yeah.
So we get that. I mean, you may want to, I just gave a meeting to the Health Association to go on the official stuff.
Oh, we had a long motion for breakfast like out this morning, the medical breakfast like out. Really, the child psychiatrist.
Okay.
It was a very productive meeting, and he basically said, we are trying to do this type of stuff in a big way for our system. I think it's part of what we're doing, because we believe proper behavioral health is actually the key to so many of our physical health problems for our entire system. So we are going to be spending tons of efforts on it. Hey, give me your honest opinion. This is Dr. Will. I said, if this bill passes, is your system going to be overwhelmed? He said, no, honestly, I have work close to Laos right now, and nobody's ever used them. Sam is my witness.
We trust you, Representative.
We just, when this mandate is out, you know.
Well,
Here's my argument now. Okay, my argument is that this is not a mandate because of what I've already added. It says if you already have a plan that covers behavioral health, this only applies to you. So I'm not pulling any new services for this. This is simply saying, can we get into the 21st century instead of lay down on my couch? Let me do it another way that's going to get you care quicker.
Yeah. So let me, you know, we are part of this security, and we've been very active.
The biggest member of our trade association. He was humble.
So let me go back on Steve.
Well, I should say that because Ed has a sickness, yeah. But in the state.
So listen, I'll say right now, the changes that are already in there, which are I think, you know, yeah, we're like sort of thing, yeah, but let's just I understand your concerns. They're well founded. I will put in the advice of the cost. I am sorry. I'll move the effective date to 1/19, and again, the usual customary.
And the daytime.
And the evaluation, yeah. I'll make those changes.
And look at my little guy. Just pity my little guy. They're competing against these monoliths. These guys, you know, they come in and just want to eat up their business. No, I joke about that, but I'm just telling you, those guys, they just need a little more time because they don't have a panel of psychiatrists on board, and they want to deliver those services to their clientele, but they want to do it in the most cost-effective way, and that's why they would like 10 more.
And I just have to share this story, and I'm not going to say who it is, but a lobbyist who's been around here as long, I was submitted to say as long as both of you, is probably older than both of you. Sam is my witness, sitting in this chair this morning on a completely separate issue that I really like that call yesterday. My wife's trying to get my son to psychiatrist, and we can't get him in. Yeah, and the primary care doc said he needs a psychiatrist.
Well, you articulated that really well before the committee the other day, and I had, frankly, I'm not embarrassed to say that I had no idea that we had such a shortage of psychiatrists.
Did you see the article that the newspaper?
I did.
So I'm glad that they're talking about silent storage to that. If the doctor from I'll be like, nobody's talking about silent storage, and it is extremely acute.
The only thing that I missed was I saw horns coming out of my head, but that halo was kind of prominent. I was going, geez, I really earned my money yesterday.
So I have to admit, this is a little bit reminiscent, not quite the same, but I had a DNA bill to take DNA from all government recipes. I got Elizabeth Smart, and Smart can testify against the bill, because he could use it against the bill.
Yeah.
And Elizabeth said, if you think taking a 5% digital swab is an invasion of your privacy, try being great and solve this for 9 months long captivity.
Yeah.
Very alone, you know.
Well, at least you didn't do that. I really appreciate that.
I have nothing more.
Oh, I remember fluent.
Oh, yeah.
Right there, speed.
And ironically, then we end up tackling the DNA of our last two attorneys general.
No kidding.
That's an felony charge.
Yeah, that's right.
Apparently, didn't get it close.
Yeah.
I'm ready to hear good work. Yeah, okay, you did great work.
Well, John, I was just saying that starting off on my it's rough day, but I mean, this is a process. Maybe nice to start thinking a little bit earlier, but you know, I you know, it's not the perfect though, but I think it's a step in the right direction. And again, I wish it honestly, I wish it was a big deal. Somebody was me asking. I know you have to fight bigger clients. I understand that, but you know, like the doctor's like, you think it's going to cause a rush on your system? Like, Facebook, I wish.
Yeah. We were more worried about, in many ways, what they would use it about. We had restructured at the time. We were good.
No, I didn't understand that. I now know more about it.
We also shared with them, just so you know, Frank, we shared with the good representative about the fact that he's only going to impact about 33% of the marketplace.
Yeah, really, whether the airline hired that.
Well, I mean,
However, I will submit that, for instance, 50% of all hepatitis patients in the country are Medicaid.
Yeah.
And they estimated that on my NCOP bill, 25% of patients will be Medicaid patients, so they're only 10% of the population. So those that are more likely to use this are actually probably the Medicaid population, which nobody complained about that. So even though only in terms of actual lives, people who may be more likely to use it, I would say it's actually a lot higher percentage. Yeah. And it would be really nice if they, after a little experience, go to other carriers said, oh wow, just like you did, this actually saves us cost, leads to better patient outcomes. Maybe this is a good idea for all of our members.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I make the changes, and I, as the changes are made,